God is both masculine and feminine and everything in between. God is non-binary. Before we go further, I want to acknowledge.
Stop right there. Did you catch what the new Texas Senate nominee just said about the divine? This isn't your typical Texas politics. We are looking at a total earthquake in the Democratic Party that just ended one of the biggest political careers in the state. You need to see how this unfolded.
Sort of forward-facing, religious, progressive persona talks about the Bible, talks about how faith doesn't have to only be owned by the right. And so I think people have found that to be exciting.
I'll tell you another thing he captured. He captured Washington Democrats. You know, he outspent Jasmine Crockett 5-1 in this primary campaign because Washington Democrats cut off the spigot. They knew that she was radioactive in a general election. They knew this race would be over as soon as the nominations were done if she was the nominee. Like it or not, she does excite the Democratic base, and that's her problem. She only excites the Democratic base. So that with that 5-1 spending advantage, he's still barely winning the Democratic primary. That tells us a lot about where Democratic primary voters are. They're well left of their...
Wait, did you catch that 5-to-1 spending ratio? That is absolutely wild. Most people think these elections are about the voters, but look at the strategy here. The Washington establishment didn't just disagree with Jasmine Crockett. They effectively cut the oxygen to her entire campaign. When they call someone radioactive on national television, it's basically a political death sentence.
Our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front that our trans community needs abortion care too. Defending trans Texans is something we have to do every day. And I've learned more about my tradition by learning more about Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam and Judaism. And so I see these beautiful faith traditions as circling the same truth about the universe, about the cosmos. And that truth...
Now, look at the language being used here. Talking about the southern border being a front porch with a welcome mat in Texas, that is a high-stakes gamble. But the real shocker is how he's weaponizing his faith to bridge the gap with progressive voters. He's weaving together Buddhism, Hinduism, and Islam into this mystery narrative.
Got you a little skeptical.
Well, look, well, let's just admit, it was an op, right? I mean, Trump had nothing to do with it. It was CBS's lawyers that had raised internal issues of that. I mean, it was a total sort of a hoax about how they position it, but I tend to agree.
Details.
I know. I'm glad that's what you think. But I tend to agree. I'll tell you this: it showed where the Democratic establishment is on it. They don't want Crockett. I think the Republicans would love to run against Jasmine Crockett because she's easier to paint as a radical. But it kind of showed you where the power brokers in the Democratic
You think Talarico would be harder for Republicans to run against? He has more crossover appeal. You think?
Probably, although I still think he's an extremist. But Crockett is easier to paint as a radical. I think that's become clear.
Scott Jennings isn't holding back here, calling the whole thing an op. This is where the plot thickens. If you look at the background of how these debates were positioned, it feels like a chess match. The theory is that the establishment wanted the controversy around the Colbert interview because it gave them the perfect excuse to pivot.
Cast their vote. We should all be standing together. Democrats, Republicans, and we should all be raising hell. But unfortunately, this was always the plan. And so I am grateful for this court order. And as Congressman Allred has already stated, we encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating, then they will continue to do it. So I am asking you, I am begging you to make sure that you go ahead and figure out where it is that you are supposed to vote, stand in line, wait in line, and if it means that I gotta come out there with you to wait with you, I will do that.
This is the moment things got heated. Look at the conviction in her voice when she talks about people being disenfranchised in Dallas. She's not just conceding, she's building a narrative. She's claiming that the lines and the cheating are the only reasons she's standing on that stage instead of the winner's circle.
There are going to be a lot of people who are having a lot of feelings about what has happened in Dallas County tonight. We're already seeing people sort of theorizing and coming up with relatively, elaborate speculation in terms of who done it and why this happened and who was behind it and whose fault it is, and whether or not the election results from Dallas County and therefore from Texas should be trusted. I just wanted to put that to you as Dallas County Elections Administrator and just ask what you would say to the voters of Dallas County and to other people looking in on your county from outside around the state and around the country right now who are having those sorts of sort of dark feelings about what's happened here.
Well, I would say two things. I would say that first, I think that's one of the reasons why I support countywide vote centers to allow voters to vote at any location where they have had previously in the county. I think it's convenient. I think it is helpful to the voters to vote that way. The other thing I would say, people are looking for, okay, well, who's behind what's going on? As I mentioned previously, all of the election workers that are here in the county, these are not people that have been brought in from someplace else. These are your family, your friends, your neighbors, community members that step up and volunteer to put on this process. And that, to me, is what helps ensure the integrity of our system, is that we have people that are just from every walk of life that are stepping up, serving basically as volunteers to make sure that our system of democracy works.
This guy has the hardest job in Texas right now. Look at how calm he is while explaining the elaborate speculation. He's doing the neighborly defense, pointing out that the people counting the votes are just your friends and family. It's a direct counter to the stolen election rhetoric we just heard.
A movement.
This movement is about whether the people will hold the power in this state and in this country. We launched this underdog campaign 6 months ago in my hometown of Round Rock, Texas. And since then, tens of thousands of Texans have shown up to
Finally, look at the underdog himself. 6 months ago, nobody outside of Round Rock really saw this coming. He started as a hometown candidate and ended up toppling a national figure. His victory speech is all about the people holding the power, which is ironic given the 5-to-1 spending advantage we talked about earlier. Texas politics just got a whole lot more complicated. Which side of this divide do you think wins the general election? Drop a comment and follow for the next breakdown.